Have you ever had an ad appear for something you were just thinking about? Targeted ads seem harmless, but they make a big impact in how we understand the world and the way that our societies are actually making decisions. A few years ago, I wrote an essay about digital surveillance for my degree, and specifically about targeted ads and that uncomfortable feeling we get of being watched all the time. At the time, it felt a bit dramatic, but since then, things have just gotten so much more pervasive. Hey everyone, my name's Lola and I'm doing a master's degree in peace and conflict studies. And the more that I study peace and human rights, the more I realise that targeted ads are not just annoying reminders that we scroll away from. They're part of this bigger ecosystem that influences how we're thinking, how we're acting, and they're undermining our core human rights in autonomy, privacy, and decision making. So today I want to revisit this topic and break down some of the relevant theories, which can actually be pretty useful once you strip away all the jargon. But let's explore how everyday digital surveillance is affecting peace, democracy, and our ability to make free choices. Imagine this scenario. You're meeting with a friend for coffee, and during your conversation, your friend mentions something that they purchased recently, maybe a mascara or a new pair of shoes. Later that day, you sit down, open Facebook, and look what's in front of you, the exact product. This now all too common feeling that we get in society does not remove any of the creepy discomfort surrounding it. This feeling of déjà vu, the abrupt, acute sense of familiarity. Are they listening to me? This scenario is all too common, and it's a clear example of the disappearance of private spaces in our current world. In these topics of human rights and peace building, we don't just cover big crises, we also cover our right to psychological safety, which this falls under. Targeted ads are an increasingly used type of psychological manipulation, where we're not being forced to do anything, yet our behaviours are still being reshaped. Data is being collected about what keeps us online, what influences us, what triggers us, and what our comforts are. Relating it to peace studies, this manipulation means that we're losing cognitive freedom and the ability to act independently, as well as the mental space to make decisions without being influenced and our just inherent sense of safety. At the same time, we're feeling more anxious and much more pressure to conform to the norms. We're monitoring ourselves and others' behaviours more, both online and in person. So this simple, familiar scenario is actually part of something much bigger. It shows how digital surveillance has become so much more deeper and internalized in society, and it's shaping behavior without us even consciously knowing. So to break down the concept of liquid surveillance, we have to first bring it back to the original theory, the panopticon. The panopticon was a prison design proposed by Jeremy Bentham. If you imagine a circular prison building where all of the prison cells are around the outside wall, and then in the middle there's a tower. The guard from that tower can see every prisoner, but none of the prisoners can see inside and see if there's a guard there. So they never actually know if they're being watched. Because they might be watched at any moment, they start to behave as if they are being watched. Eventually, the guard doesn't even have to do anything or be present. The prisoners basically police themselves. Michael Foucault later built on this idea, saying that this isn't just present in prisons. Modern societies use this kind of surveillance logic everywhere, in schools, hospitals, workplaces, and governments. It's a way of creating docile bodies, people who regulate themselves because they think someone might be observing. But this classic panopticon idea doesn't really fit our world anymore. The idea worked well for the 20th century. Physical buildings, institutions, CCTV cameras, and top-down authority. But our world doesn't look like this anymore. The panopticon assumes a few things: that there's one central guard watching, that the watching is visible and physical, and that the goal of it is discipline or punishment. But now we live in a world of apps, data flows, notifications, algorithms, and personalized content. None of that fits neatly into this prison tower metaphor anymore. No single person sitting in a tower is watching you scroll through TikTok. You're not physically confined to the space, and most importantly, the purpose isn't punishment anymore. It's more prediction, influence, and profit. In 2013, Bauman and Lyon argued that the panopticon is no longer relevant to our current world because in our society, surveillance slips into a liquid state. So they came up with the idea of liquid surveillance. They use this word liquid very intentionally though. Liquids move, seep through cracks, and take shape of whatever container they're in. They say that the old solid forms of surveillance, we're talking CCTV cameras, the watchtowers, and an identifiable authority, they've all basically melted away. And what we have now is something more flexible, often invisible, and embedded in everything we do in our daily lives. Instead of a guard watching prisoners, we've got apps tracking our behaviour, companies collecting our data, algorithms learning our habits, and platforms predicting what we're desiring. So the two academics proposed a post-panopticon. Instead of a single watcher and a group of watched people, in the post-panopticon, we're all constantly producing data, which companies then use to sort us, categorise us, target and influence us. Worst of all, this system isn't even forced on us. We're actively participating in it. Bauman and Lyon say that in this new world, we don't need a guard staring down at us. We check our own behaviour all the time, curate our posts and manage our online image. We respond to all the notifications that come on our phone. In fact, this type of surveillance is so embedded in everyday life that we stop noticing it. And because no one is standing over us with a camera, we start to internalise that watching and regulate ourselves and others. We're participating without even realising it. By being targeted with ads, this surveillance starts to shape our behaviour. Digital environments now fit into this post-panoptic category, which is no longer limited to prisoners or threats. But instead of a prison where we're forced to behave, we live in a digital world where we voluntarily offer the information required to shape our behaviour. This means that we all become governable through this data being collected on us. We've got to quickly cover the Freud of it all here. The man, the myth, the menace. Very unhinged takes, but, a broken clock is right twice a day, and sometimes he had something valuable to say. Freud's 1919 book describes the uncanny as this feeling you get when something is familiar, but not quite right. When something almost resembles real life, but in a way that makes your skin crawl a little. It's the discomfort of recognizing something that shouldn't be recognizable, and that's exactly the feeling that targeted ads tap into. It feels like they can predict our thoughts because it knows us better than we know ourselves. While we often praise some algorithms like Spotify, which get to know our music tastes, other targeted ads and algorithms on social media make us feel surveyed rather than known. And while as adults we may not be as scared of childish fantasies anymore because we don't associate them with reality, the sense that we're being watched at all times gives us this really strong feeling of uncanniness. When I watch a horror or thriller movie, I'm not scared when a ghost flies through the wall. I'm scared when the plot feels real, when a stalker follows their victim, or when a person is abducted off the street. We tell ourselves it's silly, there's nothing to be afraid of, as we switch off the movie, turn off the lights, and sprint upstairs into the safety and comfort of our bed. But on our phone, we are being watched all the time, every second of the day, every online movement that we make, and it feels really uncanny. Algorithms track our data individually, but they also group us. They place us into categories based on our likes and wants. They place us into bubbles that we don't even realise we're a part of. And in those bubbles, we start to absorb the beliefs and emotions and patterns of everyone else who the algorithm thinks we're similar to. So often we think we're being independent and forming our own opinions, but we're not really. There's a collective mind forming around us without even realising. The most dangerous part of this all is the illusion of autonomy that we're feeling. We feel like we are in control, that we're freely choosing what to read or watch, but in reality, everything that we're seeing has already been filtered and curated, personalised long before it came to our screens. Have you ever been shocked by an election result? I can think of 100 occasions where my friends and I never suspected the result after being exposed to campaigning usually only from one of the sides. The author Le Bon talked about this idea back in 1897. In his book The Crowd, he discusses how individuals lose their personal judgment when they become part of a collective. Intelligence, reasoning, even basic critical thinking start to get overridden by the emotions and core beliefs of the group around them. At the time though, Le Bon was talking about physical crowds like mobs or protests, mass gatherings. Today's crowds are digital, online, where people feel anonymous and totally in control. We don't realise that we're being influenced by the collective mind because Every post and article, advertisement appearing on our screens was carefully selected by one of the most advanced algorithms in the world. Our opinions have been shaped by thousands of tiny algorithmic decisions. And when you have millions of people living inside these personalized digital crowds, you get more polarization, where two sides become convinced that the other is insane. You get more extremism because algorithms amplify whatever is keeping people the most engaged. You get more misinformation because this spreads way faster than fact. We also see weakened trust in institutions and fragmented public spheres because every feed offers its own version of the truth. Elections then become stress tests for democracy, and we've already seen how badly that can turn out. Surveillance-powered influence doesn't just shape what we buy, it's shaping what we believe. It shapes who we vote for, it shapes the way we understand the world and our place in it. And all of this happens without us ever feeling controlled, because we opted in. So what does this mean for us? When you combine all of these ideas, the panopticon melting into liquid surveillance, the uncanny feeling of being watched, and the influence of invisible digital crowds, you get this perfect storm emerging. The system doesn't force us to behave, but it subconsciously nudges us in certain directions. We aren't shown the whole world or the whole picture, but the version of the world that the algorithm has decided we're most likely to engage with. This means that the topic becomes way more than just about ads or convenience culture or technology doing smart things in the background. Our autonomy, attention, beliefs, and ability to understand what's actually happening around us are all being reshaped. While the information we see is personalised, when our feeds are curated, filtered, and focused on keeping up with engagement, we lose our critical thinking skills, the ability to understand perspectives different from our own. Every day, our worldview becomes more and more engineered. But this is where the peace angle comes in. Freedom of thought is a foundational element of peace, freedom to think clearly, independently, and without manipulation. But when external systems shape what we believe, that freedom starts getting compromised. When algorithms decide what information we see, they're also choosing what information we don't see. And when that worldview is curated for us, it becomes harder to recognize influence, harder to understand each other, or even want to understand each other, and harder to participate meaningfully in democracy. This is what peace academics call structural violence, invisible systems that restrict our autonomy, dignity, and opportunities, but there's no obvious aggressor to point the finger at. Digital surveillance might not look like conflict, but it slowly erodes the foundations of peaceful societies. We're talking trust, informed participation, shared understanding, and the ability to reason freely. So to wrap up, I know that this all feels really heavy, and I'm not here to tell you to delete every app or throw your phone into a lake. Although, some days that does sound like the right decision. But informing ourselves is the first step to resisting this manipulation. When we understand more about how these systems work, we can question them, push back, and make more conscious decisions about how we use technology. And the more we start conversations with people who see the world differently to us, our reality begins to expand beyond that bubble that the algorithm built for us. Of course, small actions aren't just going to dismantle the system overnight, but reducing your screen time, being more intentional with the content that you're consuming, and actively seeking out diverse perspectives. Being able to listen and show each other empathy and compassion. These are all everyday things that we can implement into our lives to help strengthen peace at the individual level. Peace isn't just something that happens between governments or in negotiation rooms. It's shaped in the individual corners of our lives, in how we think, how we listen, and how we approach other people, as well as how we understand ourselves. And while we can and should push for clearer regulations, transparency in how the algorithms are working, and digital rights for everyone, we also have a certain level of power in our everyday choices. We can question the information that we're seeing. We can make space for nuance. We can build empathy. It's important to recognize that we're still capable of noticing when something feels wrong and respond with increased awareness rather than just passively moving on, scrolling and going about your day. Liquid surveillance works best when we stop paying attention to what's going on in front of us. So by paying attention, understanding more about how it affects us, we're taking the first crucial step. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to like or comment something that you'd like to hear about next, and subscribe for more of my deep dives soon. Thank you.